Hey beautiful, if you've been eating out of stress and guilt, then this video is for you. Okay, so in order to break the cycle of overeating, we first have to recognize the cycle to begin with. And this begins with emotional eating. So I'm gonna go over 3 of the triggers. There may be more, but it usually starts with one of these 3. So the first one, it could be boredom. So you're distracted watching TV and the food is available to you, so you just eat because you just feel like eating. You haven't ate and you just feel like snacking on something, and you just grab the first thing that's in your pantry. The second reason, it could be from stress. You feeling stressed out from work, stressed out with what you got going on at home, and you just feel like munching on something, whatever that is. And then the third reason, it could come from body image issues. And so you feel like you're not really reaching your goal yet, so you just end up snacking. But this is also where the battle begins. And this is what starts this cycle. And so first you might start feeling guilty because more than likely you started some sort of health goal for yourself and you've been kind of consistent with it, and then you kind of stop and you end up just eating a bunch of like junk food or whatever, and you feel guilty about it because you've been consistent, and then now you slip and you feel like you can't stop doing this. The second thing that happens in this cycle is shame. So you start to feel kind of embarrassed that this is happening to you. And then you start to tell yourself that I can start tomorrow. I already messed up, so I might as well keep going. And I know for me, my struggle was in sugar. And so I loved my Oreos and Chips Ahoy cookies. And I couldn't stop eating them. And I used to make excuses for myself. Like I would eat like 2 cookies, and then like a few minutes later, I would go back and be like, well, I guess I need 2 more because I can't have just 1 more because then that'll be an odd number. Like I was just making up so many excuses. And then I was also telling myself, well, I already messed up. I'll start again tomorrow. And then it just kept going and kept going until I eventually started to see that I had fibroids because of all the inflammation that I had. But that's in another video. And so, yeah, you start to like make excuses for yourself, and then you start to go into secrecy because you're embarrassed, because you're guilty. You feel the guilt of not sticking to your plan. You want to keep this to yourself, so you don't want to share, and you don't want to tell anybody that this is what you're dealing with. And then the cycle repeats itself for the next day. And then you wind up being far from your goal because you've been making excuses for yourself. But on top of that, you've been feeling guilty as well. But let's talk about the root of it all. At the very root, hormonal imbalances is taking place. So what was once you were having like great sleep, now you're recognizing that you're having poor sleep, you're having more brain fog, you're also having an increase of blood sugar crashes. Like it's really going down for you. Like you're really noticing some of these symptoms that's happening. And then on top of that, what's happening with your relationship with God, you once was seeking him for comfort, but now you become so distracted that now you're seeking comfort and distracting yourself with food. And we don't recognize it as that, but that's exactly what happens. We actually moved God out of his position and we placed food right there because what we believe, it makes us feel comfortable, and it makes us, it's not judging us or anything. And so we just feel like we could just eat and go on our way, and that's not good. But let's talk about how we can break that. My first tip, or step 1, is to pause and pray. So take a sip of water, actually drink like a cup of water before going to your cravings, and also spend a moment with the Lord and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, and I don't know if I'm craving something else, if I'm craving for more of you, and I've actually placed food instead of you. I placed it before you, but help me figure out what exactly this is. And pausing, it really makes a big difference, because so many times when we go to our cravings, we're not really thinking things through. We're just doing things at an impulse. But when we pause and take a sip of water, because what's happening in the natural is when you take a sip of water, we actually think we're hungry when our body is telling us that we're dehydrated, or we may be lacking a nutrient, but we're going to chocolate or we're going to whatever instead. So pause and pray. My second tip is to create wellness moments. So don't rush in the moment while you're eating, but be intentional and just spend time with God, like giving thanks as you're eating. And because a lot of times also when we're snacking and eating and stuff, we're just in a rush for whatever that we have to do next, and we don't take time to really take in the food that's in front of us. And then also naturally what's happening is that when you take your time to eat your food, it's actually helping your body to properly digest your food, and your body will thank you for it as well. The third step or tip is to renew your mind daily. So you have to stop telling yourself that you have no control, and you have to start meditating on the scripture that's actually going to help to encourage you. Sometimes we wait for people to encourage us, but a lot of times we're in this moment by ourselves, or so we think, but God is always with us. And so you have to invite him in, and also inviting him in also looks like meditating on scripture to help with building discipline, with self-control, and as well as just learning to honor him with our food. And so instead of saying I have no control, say things like God is my strength, God fulfills my portion. Like just really looking at scripture and reciting that out loud to yourselves, and this is going to help build consistency. And the fourth tip is to maintain that growth. So what we could do by maintaining consistency is by first preparing meals and snacks that will help to support our bodies. So with me, because I struggled a lot with sugar, I eventually stopped buying a bunch of cookies, because I knew that was my weakness. And then I started buying like healthier options, and it also inspired me to cook more for me and my family and make some healthier choices along the way. So that helps, as well as accountability. So joining a program, like getting a nutrition coach, or joining a community where you could be around like-minded people, that is going to be so helpful for you, because this also helps with not keeping things bottled in and feeling like you're by yourself, because you're really not. It's so many of us that's out there that have struggled in the same thing as this, and we can be an encouragement and a light to others. You also may want to do a tracking system, so like MyFitnessPal. Now for me, I do this every once in a while. I try not to do it like all the time, because I don't know, I have some thoughts about it, but every now and then I think it is a good tracking system, because it helps to really see what you're eating and what you could do better. But also, give yourself grace as well. So you have to remember that this is it's not perfection, but it is progress. And so as you're continuing in this, you don't want to be hard on yourself as well. So that's why I'm like, with the tracking system. But I think it is good for building consistency. Then you could take a break from it. Another thing that I stand by is journaling. And I like to journal with God. And so as I'm writing, sometimes he speaks to me on paper, and then I write down exactly what he says. And so journaling, it helps me a lot with getting things out of my head, because I be thinking a lot, and sometimes I don't have someone to always talk to, and so it's good to get it out on paper. And make sure you get some movement in, because if you're too distracted and you're sitting down for long periods of time, that's why we start to eat. And so if you could just start to move, then it'll also take a break from you wanting to eat food just because it's there. So beautiful. Share your favorite scripture for discipline or for healing down in the comments below to keep us all encouraged during this time. And if you're interested in nutrition coaching one-on-one, that's what I do. Check out cultivatinginnerbeauty.com. I have the link down below for you to check that out. I will talk to you in my next video. Bye, beautiful.